Welcome back to the gym. Today is the Rachel and Adam show where we talk about anything related to your relationships with your, in terms of your health. I said that in a really funny way, didn't I? But this is the show where we get into how connecting your relationship to your health journey and how important it is to have a team going into this thing. To me, like, I look at this thing and I'm like, if you're not building people into the team that you do have into your life, then what the hell are you doing? Like, you got a big life to live. Don't try to do this thing like an island. I did that for a long time. It was a huge mistake. The better the team of people that you have around you, the more stuff all of you can do. It is a win on top of a win, on top of a win, on top of a win. And today we're going to get into thinking versus feeling, because you're looking at two very, very different people here. Yes. She, much more of a feeler, and me is much more of a thinker. And depending on how you look at this, it can be a pro, it can be a con. It can be something that complements itself. And the big question I think throughout this whole show that we're going to come back to is, do these two things complement each other, or within your relationship, are you using them to impede the connection that you do have with the other person? So what's a feeler versus a thinker? I have like a list of things that I wrote down as what I think of when I think of a feeler versus a thinker.
Well, I think everybody is a thinker and a feeler. It just maybe a tendency to do one or the other.
That's a good point. I should have covered that.
Yeah, like in a combative or like a discussion.
Whoa!
We all have a friend who's has more of a tendency to feel and speak with their feelings rather than think through.
Like feel the situation,
or
feel with, or the way that they express themselves externally. Mm-hmm. It's more of a feeling.
I don't think you can call it necessarily a negative, because you get pros from both sides. But what we were saying before, it's very hard, or is it impossible, to think and feel at the exact same time?
I like to think that all things are possible,
but
I think it's extremely difficult to try to think and feel at the same time. I don't know if anybody, it's like multitasking. Like, people try to be like, I'm an excellent multitasker. I'm like, bullshit. You just are, like, you're just kind of good at doing all the things. Like, if you hone in your focus on one thing, I think that you're much better at that thing.
Well, if you're in intense feeling, intense amount of feeling in a situation, it's kind of hard to use your ability to think through the situation, because you're going off of like a natural kind of not instinct, but you're just letting something else rule your mind in that moment. Yeah,
and in this, if you are listening to what Rachel just said, and you think, and you go through that, and you're like, well, yeah, that'd be terrible. That would like, why would you want to do that? You are probably much more of a thinker, like I am. And if you're a person that sat there and were like, well, that's wonderful to sit there and let yourself feel in the moment and do all this stuff, you're probably much more of a thinker, or of a feeler, like Rachel is in most moments. So depending on what resonate from what I say is probably going to resonate for the thinkers, and what you say is probably going to resonate much more for the feelers.
You can use an example.
Yeah, go for it.
Say a bear was to run across your path. A lot of people would go towards scared, like high, intense scared. And they, in that moment, don't think of like what's really happening in that moment. You in that moment, feeling is not something you want to be engaging in. You don't want to be reaching for the fear. You want to think through the situation. How can I logically get through this situation without hurting myself and getting to safety? Yeah,
but in a situation like, let's say, sex, you wouldn't want to be sitting there thinking the entire time, being like super logical and spouting off science phrases while engaging in this super intimate sort of expression of whatever you want to call it.
Extreme examples.
A bear crosses your path,
and when you can't do both at the exact same time.
Yeah. So what I wrote down is like the difference between thinking and feeling. For me, and the list came when I was doing this, and I wrote down at first I wrote think at the top of one side of the paper and feel on the other side. And on the think side, I just rolled through it, just like a lot of different examples. And then on the feel side, it took me forever. So obviously, I'm much more of a thinker. But to me, thinking is much more of a logic, much more of a reasoning, being very objective, almost robotic, very calculated. Analyzing the scenario might be a person who is a thinker is probably a little bit more on the curious side, asks a lot of questions. And to a thinker, confrontation is an absolute. Because truth is such a big deal to a thinker. To find the truth, a thinker doesn't give a shit about your feelings, because your feelings don't mean anything in the name of truth and fact. To a thinker, those are the big things. So to a thinker, like to me, empathy is just patronization. Like, just don't patronize me with your goddamn empathy. Get out of here. I don't need your sympathy or your empathy. But to a feeler, empathy is this very nice thing that is that deepens the connection and the bond between you. So so in the moment of feeling, it's a very good thing. Whereas in the moment of thinking, empathy is absolute garbage. Thinking is much more of the understanding of facts. It's high in expectation and low in excitement. I remember one time I've gotten criticized for this many times on how I don't get excited about certain things. Like if I win when we would win a football game, or when we would people would get really excited. I remember one time being at a bar and we won this game of what do you call that, cornhole or whatever, bags. And the guy was like, "You don't get excited about anything," and I was like, "What do you mean?" I expected to win. What? Why would I get excited about that? And he thought that was the weirdest thing ever. He was much more of a feeler. But to a thinker, usefulness is only, not above all. It is only. They are very data driven, and they have where a feeler would have trouble with finding the solution. A thinker has trouble with the curve. A thinker does very good on finding solutions, where people that feel very well, they're much more about the love and the peace and the compassion, which are wonderful things if we think about them as thinkers. We're like, oh yeah, that makes sense to do those things. But we don't really, but to us, everything in the name of fact. Like we said before, empathy is to a feeler, empathy is a positive form of intimacy and connection. They are much more about understanding of emotions. And while thinkers are much more understanding of the factual side of things and what's the best decision, feelers are much more heartfelt. They will get excited. They celebrate things a little bit better, and they only emotion is useful to a feeler. Like emotion above all else. Emotion before, a feeler would not compromise your feelings or your emotions for cold hard facts, whereas a thinker doesn't give a shit. They will trample your emotions on purpose, and I agree with them because you're too busy feeling, because the solution and the truth are held above all. But they're usually a little bit more creative, and they have trouble with the solution, whereas thinkers have trouble with the curve. But
so imagine a world with just a bunch of thinkers. It wouldn't work, right?
Intimacy would be very difficult. I think raising a child would probably be pretty tough to feel to develop a nurturing environment for a feeler. Oh, that's one thing I should have put down is that feelers are very good at nurturing, whereas someone like me has to actively think about doing that.
Like you said, in competition, embracing the feeling side of it is gonna completely demolish your ability to win in that competition. If you're trying to empathize with the opponent, you're not going to win.
Yeah.
You're basically, and I've done this before.
I know you have. I know you have.
I get really competitive, but if it comes down to someone's feelings getting hurt, this isn't as much anymore, but I remember in soccer, I felt bad for the opponent, and I would let them have the ball in kindergarten.
I'm not surprised at all to win the game, so that they wouldn't feel bad.
If the goal was to make friends, I think that could help. But if the goal is to win, then you're demolishing.
Yeah, but why would you get into a competition if your goal was to make friends? I never understood that.
It was kindergarten.
I know, but I never understood it. I can honestly, I can realistically say that I don't have one friend that I was ever on a team with. You're not my friend. I'm here to win, and that is the end of the story. Like that's my error. Like I don't think that's necessarily an error, but that's just how I always thought of it. I didn't understand that people might come out for a sport to be with their friends. It didn't make sense to me.
So how do we get better at doing the other? Because I know that like you don't want.
Oh yeah. Rachel
Adam prides himself on being the thinker, but he doesn't just want to be a thinker.
Right. So she is the yin to my yang, and vice versa. I'm the yang to her yin. So it's not like I don't have any ability to be a feeler. But to me, if I know that I'm poor at that, I know that that's an area. It's a big area of self exploration that I can get into.
Yeah.
And same for you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm learning from him, and he's learning from me.
Mm-hmm.
To take a second, like I need to take a second when I'm feeling like offended by something or emotional about something. I need to first start with why is that feeling coming, and think through it rather than use that as a form of debate. You know what I mean?
Like you hurt my feelings.
When's the last time I said that?
I don't know, probably a long time ago. But I've been in kind of like not arguments, but discussions where people are like, "You're gonna make me sad," and I'm like, "I don't care." Like why would I remember being like, "Why would I care that you get sad? And why am I somehow making you sad?" It was like mind-boggling to me at the time. But
they're giving you their power in that moment as well.
Yeah, of course.
They think that they're using it as like to say that you're an asshole, but like you're making me feel bad, but really they're giving you that power.
Yeah. If we're in a competition, then great. I hope you do. I hope you feel terrible.
Yeah, because they will lose.
Because I'm here to win, and I'm here to make you lose.
I'm here to make you lose,
and I'm here to win.
But
in a cooperative setting, I want both of us to win. So
exactly, we don't want that between you and I.
Right.
Because one person.
Well, we do want the cooperative. We want the win-win.
Yeah.
We want this to be a zero-sum game, not a non-zero-sum game.
But being in a relationship isn't about competition.
Mm-hmm.
It's way more than that. We can play a game and get competitive, and one of us will win.
How'd Monopoly go?
How does Skip go?
Good point. All right, I'm done with this game. I don't like it. What was the other one? Ruzzle.
I'm great at Ruzzle.
I got my ass kicked.
The word games I'm great at.
However,
strategy, I don't know.
However, she thought that she was going to run I've never really played board games, and she thought she was going to run the gamut on Monopoly, and I smoked her, and she wasn't liking it too much.
He was definitely smushing it in my face.
I was not smushing in your face. You were feeling. I was like, I'm giving you a good deal. There's a good deal.
So that's what I mean. Like, I can be competitive, but I can get to a point where my emotions jump into the situation, then I just lose it.
And this is what I was talking about with the original question that we were going to come back to. Do these two things complement each other, or are you allowing them to impede your connection? Because you're probably going to have relationships are going to be one of three things, right? They're either going to be a feeler-thinker, or they're going to be a feeler-feeler, or a thinker-thinker. You're probably going to be one of those three. So if you're both feelers, you're going to it's going to be a tough.
You're going to be like, oh.
Yeah, you're both going to sit there and nurture the shit out of each other.
You're not going to grow from it.
But you're not going to grow from it. And if you're both thinkers, you're just going to have this two feelers are going to have like this codependent relationship. Two thinkers are going to have this relationship that never connects because they're like railroad tracks, right? The ties of the railroad tracks create an illusion, because when you look down the railroad track, it looks like they're coming together, but they're really not. The ties keep them apart forever, and they never connect. So that's like the railroad tracks are like two thinkers. So there has to be a certain amount of growth on either side of that. Whereas, like, if you have, I think we're fairly fortunate in that you're a feeler and I'm a thinker, because I can learn from you and you can learn from me. But we have to be very, very aware of that, because we can use that to impede our connection, that we can dampen our bond, because we can be like, no, I'm a feeler and you're a thinker, or vice versa, and use it to like divide us instead of connect. And
exactly. Is thinking versus feeling the same as logic versus emotion?
I think it's fairly similar.
They're fairly similar, but I think they get interchanged a little too much, right?
What do you mean?
Well, going off of feeling versus emotion.
Yeah.
And then logic versus thinking. I don't know.
I think they're just locked in. I think you're talking about two different Venn diagrams that are just so similar that
This was a question I had. I didn't even have an answer. I was just like kind of contemplating it right before we jumped in here.
Sounds like you're doing some heavy thinking.
Well.
Ooh.
Yeah. I guess so.
But I do think there is a certain amount of appreciation that can be had here that maybe hasn't that I know that we had to consciously explore. So for like the idea of usefulness, right? Like I hold thinking as this like data driven, like finding the solution as like the top form of being useful in a relationship, having like purpose and everything. But to a feeler, that wouldn't seem like that big a deal. It's like, who gives a shit? I care about our connection and how we feel about each other and how we, so to Rachel looking at that and being like, I don't care how many problems you solve. I want to feel what we have here. And I'm like, to a thinker, that doesn't really work. So we had to be very consciously aware of this and appreciate what the other one brings to the table.
And I have to remind myself constantly that...
What's that?
to stop like feeling and use my ability to think through situations.
Oh, yeah.
Than to just go to feel.
What's an example?
I don't know. It's easy for people to get scared. I think that's the most common one.
I think
especially in like having like if you're having a fight with your significant other, it's easy to take things the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And jump to conclusions and get emotional in not a good way.
Yeah.
But using logic, like especially with jealousy, it's easy for people to jump to conclusions and fill in the blanks without actually thinking it through and asking questions and seeking understanding. You know what I mean?
Who are you thinking about? Well, don't answer that question on
it's
air.
about communication too.
Like this is a scenario where jealousy has just like never been a thing.
I'm not saying like with us. I'm saying like this is in any relationship.
Yeah.
Even if it's with
your
jealousy
parents. Is a really easy one to point at where we can kind of all understand like.
But jealousy is fear.
Yeah.
It's fear without understanding the whole situation. And fear you're not good enough.
Real quick?
What?
The fear of not being enough in regards to jealousy. Why that would all like...
Well, if you look at a person that tends to always go to jealousy, they are lacking their ability to feel like they are good enough. So they to complete that that thought process, they go to, oh, I'm not good enough. That's why they're going out and seeking other people. So to them, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense for that person to...
It's as true as daytime is light. I mean, it's
just like a go-to. It's
as true as this pen is black.
I know like a current situation that I was talking to with a friend.
Yeah.
It's 90% of their arguments is about... I'm like, do you realize what that is happening right there? He is jealous. He's jealous, and the reason he's jealous is because he sees himself as not being good enough. So he thinks that he's not good enough to be with you, so you're seeking other people. You know what I mean? It's just... It all comes back to fear.
Which just turns down the attraction to the other person and then pushes them... Like, it pushes them away. Cycle. It's a nasty cycle. That's like,
Yeah.
So a lot of relationships end up in a terrible, terrible place, and they have to claw their way out of it because they didn't get help up front in the relationship. That's why, like...
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, when you're...
They're using emotion and in that instead of really thinking it through and asking questions and getting clarity and like going to that person.
But even then, you have to, like, even then that truth is still, that fear of not being enough truth is still there. Because even if you didn't jump to, let's say a guy gets jealous of girl and a guy goes up to girl and asks her questions and she says, no, I only want you, blah, 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 blah. They get to the end, they make the conclusion, and he, like, because he still has that strong truth of I'm not enough, then he'll think that he wasn't enough for the truth. He'll think she's lying to him. I'm not. If I was.
Is that his desired outcome, though? Does he want to get in a fight? Does he want her to go out and seek other?
not consciously, but subconsciously, I think people want to be right. They want their truth to be right so much that they're willing to lose all the things that they want in their life regardless. So even though they want this relationship, they'd rather be right. They'd rather be right about their truth, that they're not enough, than and confront it, than to have the relationship, so they sabotage the relationship.
Yeah. And at what point does that cycle get broken?
When they have the courage to confront that they might be enough, that they've been lying to themselves their whole life.
So
and we learn that we learn this fear. This isn't like just inherent. We learn this.
And think about how that destroyed every single relationship that he's ever had.
Yeah, it destroyed all of mine.
Because in the beginning of the relationship, until he finds a person that was willing to point that out to him and call him on the bullshit and say, no, this is about you.
He's got to call himself on the bullshit.
Exactly. He's never
he's
never been in a position to really know that that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. He's not stupid. I'm not saying he's stupid.
No.
He just has never had...
Highly intelligent people fall for this stuff.
Yeah.
Like really, really, really smart people can't define the word love. If you can't, in this scenario, they don't think they're good enough to be lovable. Mm-hmm. And if you're not lovable, then you'll find somebody that, anyway, I don't need to go in that, but you'll find somebody that has a need that you can fill, and you'll find a really needy person, and you'll have this need to be needed because you don't find yourself to be lovable because you're not good enough to be loved. And if you're not good enough to be loved, and somebody tells you that they love you, you'll say, this person would say that they're lying to them, because if they knew you well enough, they'd know that you're not lovable. It's
also sneaky.
Yeah.
It's so sneaky.
So sneaky. You would never...
He was seeking out somebody that would fulfill his truth.
Yeah, and it's extremely status quo. To think the way that we're presenting here would be so anti... Oh, yeah, everybody does it. Every single relationship and every single person on planet Earth that has ever been has done this. Yeah. Not one person is exempt. I don't remember where I was going right before that, but no one is exempt. Everybody has done this.
But when you know better, you tend to that's the thinking versus feeling kind of thing. He's feeling this, but he's not thinking about why he feels like that.
Well, usually you learn in retrospect. It's like, okay, well, you can look back and notice all these times and you can learn.
Yeah,
and then eventually you get more skilled at becoming aware, and eventually somewhere along the line, you start to anticipate when you know that you're going to go to this place. And it's not about being triggered. The triggered word, I just think that's so silly.
That's kind of a victim thing, right?
Yeah, it's totally a self-victimization. Like, I was totally triggered. Like, grow up. But that's a thinker talking there. So
I wouldn't say grow up. I'd just be like...
I want to say grow up a lot to these people. Like, I was triggered. You made me feel bad. You made me sad. You made me angry. No. You need to grow up.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that
because...
It takes
two to tango.
There are 80, 90-year-old people that have never thought this
That's
through.
The thing. It's like when this stuff is being put in front of you, it's almost like you resist it. Like you resist, like seeing everything. Like I could tell this person face to face, the guy I'm talking about, face to face. I could be talking about this, and he'd have no idea that I was talking about him.
Yep. He'd probably agree with you on 100% of it.
He'd be like, yeah, and I'd be like, wait, this actually, you know what? I've been talking about you this entire time.
Yeah, he'd be like, no, you're not.
I'd be like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. That's not me. Like, yeah. But it is.
It's tough. That's like the Gloria Steinem quote. The truth will set you free, but first it's going to piss you off. I've always liked that one because it's kind of accurate. Like truth, like the ugly truth. The truth hurts. Like sometimes getting that mirror put in front of your face, like the Michael Jackson song, looking at the man in the mirror. I think it's cliche, but at the same time, it's so accurate and so difficult to do. It's outrageously difficult. But if you have the guts to do it, if you have the guts to be that curious about yourself, you open yourself up to this I don't want to say enlightened way of living, but this conscious way of living where you can really decide the life that you want to live instead of having the default of the life that you would have had anyway.
Well, it's also kind of like when you're in a conversation with somebody, like, they can give you all the best advice in the world, but have they taken their own advice?
No kidding.
Like, I mean, this is anybody.
Yep.
We all can see from the outside what a person's problem is when they're giving you the whole story, and we can tell them exactly what to do.
Yep.
But we also, a lot of times, don't take the advice.
Yeah. And Rachel and I know this because we've done this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a couple times.
Yeah, I mean, probably daily. Mm-hmm. I don't care how good at this stuff, you probably do it daily. What?
Yeah. I think I do it daily.
I think everybody does. I know I do.
But I wouldn't change it. I mean, it's scary being faced with, like, looking at yourself and pointing out your flaws.
Yep.
But, like, every time you're able to point out your flaws instead of being distracted and going somewhere else, it's an ability to grow.
Yeah. I think if you're not screwing up, then you screwed up. You still screwed up. If you didn't have the courage to get out there and push the envelope enough to make an error, you inherently made, like, that is an error in itself.
Kind of like the people who are just, like, naturally gifted at everything. You think that they have it all together, and then something awful happens to them, and they don't know how to deal with it. It's just almost too much to bear. And those are the people who are just like, you have everything going for you, you have nothing to worry about, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But they've never had to, like, deal with certain losses or struggles, or that's the thing, like, without the struggles that we have every day, our ability to fight through the stuff that's actually kind of shitty would. We were talking about that the other day
when we were talking about the clearing thing.
Clearing
when a friend of ours wants to clear all these bad things that have ever happened to him.
Yeah.
And it was like, why would you want to get rid of the bad things? And he's like, I don't want to get rid of them. I want to clear them. And I'm like, why would you want to clear them? Why wouldn't you want to analyze them, dig into them, figure out what your error was, figure out what you grew from, what was the good and the bad, what was all the, like, I don't want to clear that out. I want to grow from that thing. Because I don't think it's about having less pain or less struggle or less. Mm-hmm. I think it's about bearing the load. How strong can you get? How much of a load can you bear? Like, lift a load. Take the responsibility. Like, you don't want, like, for instance, you don't want the weights to be lighter in the gym to make yourself feel stronger. You want to get stronger to lift the heavier weights.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, would I rather, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, but would I rather take away all of my memories from ever?
Yeah.
Or would I rather just start off completely new as who I am right now and just go on?
Well, that's kind of the same thing.
No, but I have no memory of anything before.
Okay. Or
either I clear out my memories from Rachel 30 and beyond, or do I start off like baby?
Oh, I gotcha.
A new person. Like, I can talk and walk and do all that,
well,
but I have no conscious idea of what happened to me in the past.
One you've already done.
What?
One of those you've already done.
What?
You started out as a baby.
I know. Well, obviously, but would I want to do that now at 30? Like, if you had the option.
Oh, you mean if you had the option, do I get my memories as a baby?
No, you don't get any memories.
Okay. I don't know.
You're starting off with no, like, you.
I think I'd be the baby.
Like, you're able to. You're not a baby. I'm saying you're 30.
Oh.
You're starting out as like you can still have conversations, blah blah blah, but you don't have any of those struggles that you went through, any of those triumphs that you went through, you have nothing. No memories of your family, no memories of your friends, no nothing.
See,
I think a lot of people
really rough would you rather game, right?
I know. I was just thinking about it because I was thinking about when I was with my family. I had a reunion this weekend.
I was thinking about forgetting everything and just not knowing who you guys are.
Who would I be without everything from my past?
I gotcha.
I would be nothing. I would just be like a
random
vanilla person. Yeah.
Those movies are pretty good, where the person loses all their memory and then they're having to figure things out as they go along. Those are kind of interesting movies, but that's fiction, so who knows?
Yeah. Well, the idea is
it'd be really cool to interview people like that.
Some people would want to get rid of like all the hurt, all the anger, all the stuff in the past. But that's what makes us who we are.
I think that's a mistake.
And you can only build. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Some people would tend to say like, I want to start brand new. I want to start brand new.
And with our friend, the friend that we're talking about that wants to clear all this stuff out, he's blaming.
He wants to start brand new.
He has trouble with relationships, like extremely savvy financially. He's done very, 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 very well. But relationships, he has a really hard time. So he's fairly similar on that. Like, to me, I had to get a bunch of, I knew that I was the common denominator in all of my terrible relationships. So I had to be like, take responsibility for that, plow on, be like, okay, I'm the common denominator. I got to get to work on me. So that's what I did. And I think that he's doing the same thing, except that he wants to blame all of the negative relationship stuff on his past traumas. And it's like, I don't think that the past traumas are why you have negative relationships.
I think he's letting his past traumas bleed into the relationship.
Well, maybe, but he's not confronting something about the past trauma. He's not learning from them. He's not doing something. He's blaming his current life on the past trauma. And your current life is not your past. You built upon it, but it is not now. Like, the trauma that happened when you're 4, 5, 6, it's not happening at 28, 30, 33. It's not. It's done. It's over with. Whether you're conscious of it or not, you are the reason that it's still happening.
Grit Jim is watching.
What?
Grit Jim is watching mine.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I wonder how that happened.
I do too.
But I think relationships are so intriguing to me. I think from a thinker's perspective, an extreme thinker that is trying to explore the feeling side of the whole relationship thing is extremely interesting. I'm a very curious person, but I find the feeling thing very, I don't even know the word for it. It's like this whole new endeavor. It's like I didn't know that it exists, for one. And so getting to these spaces where there's this sharing of whatever it is, whatever this medium is, and you have this kind of heartfelt thing. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, this is weird. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I got all this weird stuff in me. And I think it might be similar for you from the thinking side of like when we first started doing this, and she was asking me questions on like how I think and blah blah blah, and I would say things, and she'd be like, that makes no sense. Like, she'd be like, I don't get how you could possibly think like that. Like, it was like I was from Mars. I was speaking Martian.
I still think you're from Mars.
Maybe I am.
All right.
But anyway, I think that's the question is, like, first, I think whether you're two feelers, two thinkers, or you're a thinker and a feeler, and then either way, are you using the difference or the commonality to impede your connection, or are you using it to complement your connection? And it's something that I think both of us have had to be very, very aware of, to appreciate your skills and you to appreciate mine.
Well said.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You have anything else?
No, I'm good.
I think we covered everything.
Most everything.
Amber goes, it's Amber.
It's Amber. Oh, okay. I was like, there's no way I can
Amber
see
said
everything.
it's Amber.
I know.
It's kind of a funny sentence. All right, guys. Well, that's what we have. Please comment below what you think. Are you a thinker or are you a feeler? Is kind of what I would like to like. Do you consider yourself a thinker or a feeler?
Yeah.
And is there anything in that list that really resonated with you? I'd really like to hear, for instance, the empathy thing. I think to a thinker, empathy is this garbage idea. It's patronizing. To a feeler, empathy is absolute. And I like, to a thinker like me, I think like don't empathize. Like, that is the most ridiculous word. But to a feeler, it's like, how could you even say such a thing? But anyway, please comment below with whether you're a thinker or a feeler, and then let us know what you thought of the show. Anything else you want to say before we go? Unintentional rhyme there. Always rhyming. I don't mean to.
I don't think I have everything. Anything.
You don't think you have everything?
Anything.
I have everything.
All right.
All right, thanks for being here, guys. Please like, comment, share below, and send this out to everybody you know. Let us know if you are a thinker or a feeler and what you thought of the show today, if anything resonated with you. But we'll be back with Rachel next Tuesday. Really came with the perspectives today. That was good.
I guess so.
Deep questions. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.